Hare Krishna, welcome to this episode of Chaitanya Charitamrita. Today we will be continuing our reading on the Candana-yātrā, the history of the Candana-yātrā, and how Mādhavendra Purī brought this festival um, into this world. And we will be hearing about the glories of Mādhavendra Purī as well. So we'll say our Mangalacharan prayers and continue. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnanatimira Jnanashalakaya. चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः. श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्. वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरुन् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणरघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तु ते. तप्त काञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये. वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः. नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिन्निति नामिने. नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे. जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद. हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. Trying to kind of juggle a few things at the same time. Just a second. Okay, so it's blurred now. Okay. Okay, I guess that is better. Let me know how the audio and the video are coming through. All right, so we will continue from where we left off. I don't know if you remember Gopal deity. So Madhavendra Purī came from Govardhan village all the way to Odisha, Remuna, where Gopinath deity is there, and he famously became Kshirchora Gopinath because of Madhavendra Purī. And he was supposed to collect the chandan or sandalwood from this area and go back to Gopal deity in Govardhan. So he was prepared to take all that trouble because it's a lot to carry. Because in the summer it's very hot. So the Gopal deity in Govardhan, he wanted a mixture of sandalwood paste and camphor to be applied on his body so that it cools him down. Now the Lord actually can tolerate anything. All he's beyond these material conditions like temperature, but it's his way of making his devotees serve him, and also as they take um, hardships for his service, he wants to glorify them. So now, this Madhavendra Purī, he took the chandan from Remuna, and he was supposed to go back to. He wanted to go back to Govardhan, which is, if you know, I mean, it's more than 2,000 kilometers away. I think even more than that. I don't know. So that's a long distance, and those days on foot or some, I don't know. I think sannyasis weren't even going on conveyances or vehicles. So it was a lot of tapasya. So what Gopal deity came in the dream of Madhavendra Purī and said, "No, you please just offer the chandan to Gopinath deity at Remuna itself. When it's applied to him, it's applied to me also. I am the same person." So I think that's where it will start today. You see, this was the last verse we ended on. গোপীনাথ আমার সে একই অঙ্গ হয়, ইহাকে চন্দন দিলে হবে মোরে তাপক্ষয়. There's no difference between my body and Gopinath's body. They are one and the same. Therefore, if you smear the sandalwood pulp on the body of Gopinath, you will naturally also smear it on my body. Thus, the temperature of my body will be reduced. So we have read this, but we'll reiterate here. Purport: Gopal was situated in Vrindavan and was far from Remuna, which was far from Remuna. In those days, one had to pass through provinces governed by the Muslims, who sometimes hindered travelers. Considering the trouble of his devotee, Lord Gopal, the greatest well-wisher of his devotees, ordered Madhavendra Purī to smear the sandalwood pulp on the body of Gopinath, which was non-different from the body of Gopal. In this way, the Lord relieved Madhavendra Purī from trouble and inconvenience. দ্বিধানা ভাবিহ না করিহ কিচ্ছু মানে, বিশ্বাস করি চন্দন দেহ আমার বচনে. You should not hesitate to act according to my order. Believing in me, just do what is needed. So, this is actually a principle that we should all imbibe when we are executing the order of the spiritual master. We should believe in the force and power of the order of the spiritual master coming as it is from Krishna, and therefore that force is too great to be hindered by any material cause. So if I don't do it, somebody else will do it, but the order will as I showed in the last session, that the order of the spiritual master is a prophecy and an offer combined. So when the spiritual master orders us to do something, the thing is that it will happen no matter whether I do or not. But if I do, it's a merciful offer to me to be engaged in his service. So you should not, the deity told him, you should not hesitate to act according to my order. Believing in me, just do what is needed. Similarly, our movement, we have to do what is needed to push on Prabhupada's movement, and focusing it on the books, reading of the books, studying of the books, distribution of the books, and every other service should be to enhance or to serve the original purpose of distribution of the books. When we say distribution, not just the book going out, but the knowledge of the book also going out to the devotees and to the outsiders. Of course, if they read the book, they will get the knowledge. But we are not just salesmen, we are also supposed to read the books and live by the books. So we have to take that very seriously and act according to the directions of the books, which is engage ourselves in service as ordered by the spiritual master. That's why every morning we sing Guru Mukha Padmavakya Chittete Korya Aikya Arna Koryaho Mane Asha. So we should take the Guru's order to be our life and soul, and we should not have any other hesitation about it. And not just that, in fact, our consciousness should not be anything but the order of the spiritual master. How to execute, how to execute, how to execute. This should be my consciousness. Always planning and always acting on it. এটা বলি গোপাল গেল গোসাই জাগিলা গোপীনাথের সেবক গণে ডাকিয়া আনিলা. After giving these instructions, Gopal disappeared and Mādhavendra Purī awoke. He immediately called for all the servants of Gopinath and they came before him. প্রভুর আজ্ঞা হইল এই কর্পূর চন্দন গোপীনাথের অঙ্গে নিত্য করহ লেপন. Madhavendra Purī said, smear the body of Gopinath with this camphor and sandalwood I have brought for Gopal in Vrindavan. Do this regularly every day. ইহাকে চন্দন দিলে গোপাল হইবে শীতল স্বতন্ত্র ঈশ্বর তার আজ্ঞা সে প্রবল. If the sandalwood pulp is smeared over the body of Gopinath, then Gopal will be cooled. After all, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is completely independent. His order is all powerful. So the deity of the Lord is all powerful, is Krishna himself, and if the chandan is applied to Gopinath, Gopal also gets it. Now again, that does not mean that somewhere in Vrindavan there is Candana-yātrā, so therefore, or somewhere there is cooking, so I don't need to cook anything here. In another part of the world, food stuff is being cooked for Krishna, and that this is also same Krishna, so let me not cook. It's not about laziness here. First of all, in the case of Mādhavendra Purī, there was no sandalwood in Vrindavan there, Govardhan. It had to be brought from here. But then when it was supposed to be brought, Mādhavendra Purī decided to go through all the troubles, undergo all troubles to bring the sandalwood. But, he had to pass through Muslim provinces where if they see sandalwood, they will either steal or they will tax more or harass the devotees, harass Mādhavendra Purī. So Krishna did not want him to go through all this suffering or trouble. And he said, you just apply to Gopinath and it will be the same for me. We cannot apply that in today's context where transport systems are very efficient. We don't have such dangers like what Mādhavendra Purī would have faced, like the Muslim rulers or provinces or something where it was very difficult. That is not there for most part. Transport systems are very efficient. So it's a very special case here. So we have to cook and anyway, if somewhere else the food stuff is being cooked and I don't need to offer it, then what will I eat? I will eat something, right? That is not stopping because that person is eating. I'm not eating. No, it doesn't work. I have to eat, and what I will eat? What will I eat if it's not prasadam? So it has to be, and not just for us. We have to serve Krishna. The point is, we have to serve Krishna. It's not about whether Krishna is getting it or not. In Jagannath Puri, he's offered so many items, so he doesn't need. That's the thing. When we serve Krishna, we are the ones who are benefited. Prahlad Maharaj said that, I showed the other day, 7, 9, 11. नैवात्मनः प्रभुरयं निजलाभपूर्णो मानं जनादविदुषः करुणो वृणीते यद्यज्जनो भगवते विदधीतमानं तच्चात्मने प्रतिमुखस्य यथा मुखश्रीः. The Supreme Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is always fully satisfied in Himself. Therefore, when something is offered to Him, the offering by the Lord's mercy is for the benefit of the devotee. That's the thing. He's always fully satisfied in Himself and it's for our benefit. For the Lord does not need service from anyone. To give an example, if one's face is decorated, the reflection of one's face in the mirror is also seen to be decorated. Okay, so গ্রীষ্মকালে গোপীনাথ পড়িবে চন্দন শুনি আনন্দিত হইল সেবকের মন. The servants I'm sorry, there was some glitch there. I don't know why. Okay, we have resumed our live stream. The servants of Gopinath became very pleased to hear that in the summer all the sandalwood pulp would be used to anoint the body of Gopinath. Puri kahe e dui ঘষিবে চন্দন আর জানা দুই দেহ দিবজে বেতন. Mādhavendra Purī said, these two assistants will regularly grind the sandalwood and you should also get 2 other people to help. I shall pay their salaries. So, even if, because they have livelihood, if they do only this, then how will their family run? So he even agreed to pay their salaries. So you may ask, how did Madhavendra Puri, being a sannyasi, could have so much money to pay their salaries? They would have been householders, these whoever was supposed to grind the chandan. So how would a sannyasi pay? Well, he would beg, and whatever he would get, he would pay with that. Somehow or other the service must go on. So he said he would pay their salaries even. এই মত চন্দন দেয়া প্রত্যহ ঘষিয়া পড়ায় সেবক সব আনন্দ করিয়া. In this way, Gopinath ji was supplied ground sandalwood pulp daily. The servants of Gopinath were very pleased with this. प्रत्यह चंदन पड़ाय जावत होइलो अंत तथाय रहिलो पुरी तावत पर्यंत. In this way, the sandalwood pulp was smeared over the body of Gopinath until the whole stock was finished. Madhavendra Puri stayed there until that time. ग्रीष्मकाल अंते पुनः नीलाचले गेला नीलाचले चातुर्मास्य आनंदे रहिला. Grishma summertime, summer season. At the end of summer, Madhavendra Puri returned to Jagannath Puri, where he remained with great pleasure during the whole period of Chaturmasya. So Candana-yātrā, which is now celebrated in Vrindavan, ISKCON also, it is done just prior to Chaturmasya. It's in the summer, in the month of May around. May, June. Around that time, there is Candana-yātrā for 1 month. So the Lord is anointed with Chandan. In ISKCON temples in Mayapur and Vrindavan, the deities are decorated very nicely in the ISKCON temples. Purport. The Chaturmasa period begins in the month of Ashadha, June, July, from the day of Ekadashi, called Shayana Ekadashi, in the fortnight of the waxing moon. You see, this is the system. From the day of Ekadashi, this is the Ekadashi system. So we follow a Purnima system, where it starts from a Purnima, and in the Purnima also there are two variations. One actually starts from the Pratipat, the first day, and the end is the Purnima. And the Pratipat again is the next month. But ours starts from Purnima, because our year for Gaudiya Vaishnavas, our lunar year starts on the appearance day of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And therefore, our Samvatsara are called Gaurabda Samvatsara. Starting from the advent of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we count like that as Gaudiya Vaishnavas. And because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took birth on a Purnima, full moon day, Magha Purnima, from that Purnima is the first day. So Chaturdashi will be the last day, and then again Purnima will be the first day. So that's how we observe. But you see how Prabhupada is saying here, Chaturmasa period begins from the month of Ashada, from the day of Ekadashi called Shayana Ekadashi, in the fortnight of the waxing moon. The two waxing moon. The period ends in the month of Kartik, October, November, on the Ekadashi day known as Utthana Ekadashi, in the fortnight of the waxing moon. So this Utthana Ekadashi is the disappearance day of Gaur Kishore Das Babaji. But we finish on the Purnima day. So some people, they follow from Amavasya to Amavasya, some Purnima to Purnima, and Purnima two variations, Pratipat to Purnima or Purnima to Chaturdashi. We follow the Purnima to Chaturdashi because of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then the other one is Ekadashi to Ekadashi. Even in Sri Sampradaya, they follow Ekadashi to Ekadashi. Months, Ekadashi to Ekadashi. This 4-month period is known as Chaturmasya. Some Vaishnavas also observe it from the full moon day of the Ashadha until the full moon day of the Kartik. This is also a period of 4 months. This period calculated by the lunar months is called Chaturmasya, but others also observe Chaturmasya according to the solar month from Shravana to Kartik. The whole period, either lunar or solar, takes place during the rainy season. Chaturmasya should be observed by all sections of the population. It does not matter whether one is a grihastha or a sannyasi. The observance is obligatory for all ashramas. The real purpose behind the vow taken during these 4 months is to minimize the quantity of sense gratification. This is not very difficult. In the month of Shravana, one should not eat spinach. In the month of Bhadra, one should not eat yogurt. In the month of Ashvina, one should not drink milk. One should not eat fish or other non-vegetarian food during the month of Kartik. And that is why urad dal. A non-vegetarian diet means fish and meat. Similarly, masoor dal and urad dal are also considered non-vegetarian. These two dals contain a great amount of protein, and food rich in protein is considered non-vegetarian. On the whole, during the 4-month period of Chaturmasya, one should practice giving up all food intended for sense enjoyment. So this is the observance. So masoor dal, urad dal, so too much protein is considered non-vegetarian. This non-vegetarian is a more of a Western word, because it is still coming from vegetables, as masoor dal and urad dal. Why non-vegetarian? It's basically not sattvic, and especially it's bordering on rajasic, and especially on Kartik month, this should be avoided. श्रीमुखे माधव पुरीर अमृत चरिता भक्त गणे सुनाया प्रभु करे आस्वादिता. Thus, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally praised the nectarian characteristics of Mādhavendra Purī, and while he related all this to the devotees, he personally relished it. प्रभु कहे नित्यानंद करो विचार, पुरी सम भाग्यवान जगते नाही यार. You see, this is the thing. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu praised the nectarian characteristics of Mādhavendra Purī, and he personally relished it. So we should also glorify devotees. If we find anything good, yeah, we should glorify. We should learn how to see the good and share it with others, so that others also will be inspired to do the same. So this is an important aspect of devotional service. What is that? 11 to 12. 11 to 12. श्रुतोऽनुपठितोऽध्यात आदृतो वानुमोदितः सद्यः पुनाति सद्धर्मो देव विश्वद्रुहोऽपिः. Pure devotional service rendered to the Supreme Lord is spiritually so potent that simply by hearing about such transcendental service, by chanting its glories in response, by meditating on it, by respectfully and faithfully accepting it, or by praising the devotional service of others, even persons who hate the demigods and all other living beings can be immediately purified. See? Okay, there are some questions in the comment section. I will address them at the end. So you see, this just praising the devotional service of others, and by meditating on it, by respectfully and faithfully accepting our devotional service, we can become purified. And Kunti Devi also said this. शृण्वन्ति गायन्ति गृह्णन्त्यभीक्ष्णशः स्मरन्ति नन्दन्ति तवेहितं जनाः त एव पश्यन्त्यचिरेण तावकम् भवप्रवाहो परमं पदाम्बुजम्. O Krishna, those who continuously hear, chant and repeat your transcendental activities or take pleasure in others doing so, certainly see your lotus feet, which alone can stop the repetition of birth and death. Take pleasure in others doing so. See, that's very important. We should take pleasure in other people's, other devotees' devotional service. And this is very nicely shown in these two verses. 3, 15, 19. Okay, 3, 15, 18 and 19. पारावतान्यभृतसारसचक्रवाक दात्यूहहंसशुकतित्तिरिबर्हिणां यः कोलाहलो विरमते चिरमात्रमुच्चैर्भृङ्गाधिपे हरिकथामिव गायमाने. When the king of bees hums in a high pitch, okay, this is the description of the spiritual world, how the bees and the birds behave. So when the king of bees hums in a high pitch, singing the glories of the Lord, so even the bees sing the glories of the Lord in the spiritual world, even in the birds, everybody, plants, animals, everybody. So when the bee does that, there is a temporary lull in the noise of the pigeon, the cuckoo, the crane, the chakravaka, the swan, the parrot, the partridge, and the peacock. Such transcendental birds stop their own singing simply to hear the glories of the Lord. You know, there's so much here in this verse. If you see the bees, what kind of sound they make? Zzz, like that. What kind of sound does the cuckoo make? And the partridge, the chakravaka, the swan, the parrot, the partridge, the pea. I mean, these birds make much better sounds. And even the nightingale, beautiful sound it makes. But although they were much more qualified in the artistic presentation of their voice, and they're also pure devotees. They would sing the glories of the Lord as well, and they had better voices than the bumblebee. Why did they, when the bumblebee was making its sound, glorifying the Lord, then these birds subdued their voices to hear what the bee was saying? Although it wasn't as, you know, um, melodious. Why? Because they considered, oh, this bumblebee is way more fortunate than we are, because it's much more closer to the Lord. It's, right at the garlands where the Lord was wearing those garlands on his body, and then this bee has gone as close to the Lord as that garland, and now he has secrets about the Lord that he alone knows. Let us hear. So you see the consciousness. So it's not about the artistic presentation or how advanced they are. No, it's about who is qualified, who has advanced. I mean, advanced in artistic presentation. Hmm? So it's not about talent. It's not a talent show in the spiritual world. Like here we have talent shows on TV. It's not a talent show. It's a bhakti. It's the bhakti, and the non-envious nature, where I would easily praise someone else um, and appreciate their devotional service. So you see, that's the mood of the Vaikuntha. Okay, and let's see the purport. You see this point. In the material world, even an ass enjoys his sound vibration. But in the Vaikuntha, such nice birds as the peacock, the chakravaka, and the cuckoo prefer to hear the vibration of the glories of the Lord from the bees. The principle of devotional service, beginning with hearing and chanting, are very prominent in the Vaikuntha world. Very nice. And non envious nature. And the next, just now we have seen birds and bees. Now we will see the flowers. Mandara kunda kurabotpala champakarna पुन्नागनागवकुलम्बुज पारिजाताः गन्धेर्चिते तुलसिकाभरणेन तस्या यस्मिंस्तपः सुमनसो बहुमानयन्ति. Although flowering plants like the Mandara, Kunda, Kurabaka, Utpala, Champaka, Arna, Punnaga, Nagakeshara, Bakula, Lily, and Parijat are full of transcendental fragrance, right? All of these are very, very fragrant flowers. They are still conscious of the austerities performed by Tulsi. For Tulsi is given special preference by the Lord, who garlands himself with Tulsi leaves. Tulsi, comparatively, doesn't have as much fragrance as Champaka or Parijata, Lily, Bakula. It's fragrant, not as fragrant as these other flowers. And Parijat, I mean, come on, how can it match? But they are conscious of the austerities performed by Tulsi, and for that reason, they revere the Tulsi. And because the Lord garlands himself with Tulsi leaves. So how close it is to the Lord, and in that way they always see the good in others. This is Vaikuntha consciousness. Nirmatsaranam satam. You see, the most important thing about the spiritual world is that there is no envy among the devotees there. This is true even among the flowers, which are all conscious of the greatness of Tulasi. In the Vaikuntha world entered by the four Kumaras, even the birds and flowers are conscious of service to the Lord. Beautiful, isn't it? This is the mood we need to cultivate. Okay, so Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did that. प्रभु को है नित्यानंद करो हो विचार पूरी सम भाग्यवान जगते नाही यार. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked Nityananda Prabhu to judge whether there was anyone within the world as fortunate as Madhavendra Puri. दुग्धदान छले कृष्ण जारे देखा दिलो तीन बारे स्वप्ने आसी जारे आज्ञा कइलो. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Madhavendra Puri was so fortunate that Krishna personally appeared before him on the plea of delivering milk. 3 times the Lord gave orders to Madhavendra Puri in dreams. All this is not ordinary. जार प्रेमे वश हया प्रकट होइला सेवा अंगीकार करे jagat tarila. Being obliged because of the loving affairs of Madhavendra Puri, Lord Krishna himself appeared as the Gopal deity, and accepting his service, he liberated the whole world. जार लागे गोपीनाथ क्षीर कइल चोरी अतएव नाम होइल क्षीर चोरा करे. On account of Madhavendra Puri, Lord Gopinath stole the pot of sweet rice. Thus he became famous as Kshir Chora, the thief who stole the sweet rice. कर्पूर चंदन जार अंगे चढ़ाइला आनंदे पुरी गोसायर प्रेमे उठलिला. प्रेम उठलिला. Madhavendra Puri smeared the sandalwood pulp over the body of Gopinath, and in this way he was overpowered with love of Godhead. म्लेच्छ देश कर्पूर चंदन आनिते जंजाल पूरी दुख पावे इहा जानिया गोपाल. In the provinces of India governed by the Muslims, there was much inconvenience in traveling with sandalwood and camphor. Both were very valuable items, and therefore there was much inconvenience. Because of this, Madhavendra Puri might have gotten into trouble. This became known to the Gopal deity. Mahadayamaya Prabhu Bhakta Vatsal Chandana Pari Bhakta Shrama Korilo Safal. The Lord is very merciful and attached to his devotees. So when Gopinath was covered with sandalwood pulp, Madhavendra Puri's labor became successful. Purir prema parakashtha karaho vichar alaukika prema chitte lage chamatkar. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu placed the standard of Madhavendra Puri's intense love before Nityananda Prabhu for judgment. All his loving activities are uncommon, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said. Indeed, one is struck with wonder to hear of his activities. And there is a reference to Madhavendra Puri's devotional service and his Nirjan Bhajan, that means solitary worship of the Lord, by none other than Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. In that famous song, Dushtaman, Tumi Kiser Vaishnav. So in that song, where he chastises the mind for having pride in being a great devotee, and it's a way to train our mind. Dushtaman means, oh, wicked mind. So, in that, Madhavendra Puri's name is mentioned. The real standard of Nirjan Bhajan is Madhavendra Puri. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was relishing his devotional service. In the same way, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu actually relished the devotional service of Prahlad Maharaj and Dhruv Maharaj. Hundreds of times he read those Prahlad Charitra and Dhruva Charitra from the Srimad Bhagavatam. Purport: when the living entity feels spiritual separation from Krishna, Krishna Viraha, he has achieved the prime success of life. So if we are being successful but in our spiritual life, we should introspect. Am I feeling separation from Krishna? Sometimes neophytes say, yeah, I'm feeling a lot of separation, I'm crying. It's not so easy. What they experience is an imitation or a reflection of a dim reflection of the original state. Sometimes neophytes may feel something like that. And Krishna sometimes makes that happen so that he keeps them interested, he keeps them inspired. And he does not give that for long. He gives us a taste of what it can feel like by giving them a dim reflection of it in the beginning, so that they will hanker for that and become serious about achieving that for long term and constantly to be in that mood. So, the Krishna Viraha means actually intense Krishna Sangha. That's the beauty of spiritual world. There is no difference between separation and meeting in the spiritual world. In fact, separation is more than meeting. Sangama viraha vikalpe varamiha viraho nasangamantasya ekasya eva sange tribhuvanamapi tanmayam virahe. Radharani says, this is from Padyavali of Rupa Goswami. Separation from Krishna is better than meeting him. When I meet him, there is only one Krishna. But when I am separated from him, the three worlds become filled with Krishnas. So here there is difference between meeting and separation. In the spiritual world, there is not. Separation is even more meeting than meeting. That's why the dāsa of Krishna enjoys more than the dāsa of Krishna. He relishes the mellows more than the dāsa of Krishna, the direct servant. The servant of the servant relishes even more. This is the beauty. That's why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to become servant of Krishna to taste the relish of devotional service, which Krishna could not taste himself. Krishna was in the role of a master, in the role of the supreme lovable object. He did not know what love was. I mean, of course, he loves his devotees, but the love that Radharani felt, he did not know. He could not understand. And given his position, because he does not serve himself, he's always serving devotees. He does not know the bliss of devotional service to him. And therefore, he accepted Radharani's role as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And in that mood, he served, and then he could actually taste what Radharani was tasting. Because she was enjoying 100 times more than him. 100 times more than he was enjoying Radharani, she was enjoying him. And enjoying, when I say enjoying, it's not sense gratificatory enjoyment, but the enjoyment of serving the other person. When one becomes disinterested in material things, he is simply experiencing the other side of attraction for material things. You know what it means? Okay, when one becomes disinterested in material things, he is simply experiencing the other side of attraction for material things. However, feeling separation from Krishna and engaging in the service of the Lord to fulfill his mission constitute the best example of love of Krishna. So, Ichha and Dvesha, when we have attachment for something and when we become detached from something, it's about the focus is that something, whether I am detached or attached to it, detached from it or attached to it. It's actually attachment only. Because my sense gratification is what I'm attached to. And if something is facilitating it, I become attached to it. If something is inhibiting it, I become disinterested in it or hateful of it. So this is this material world. But the feeling of separation from Krishna intensifies our love for him, and engaging in the service of the Lord to fulfill his mission constitute the best example of love of Krishna. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to point out this intense love of Krishna exhibited by Mādhavendra Purī. All Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's devotees later followed in the footsteps of Mādhavendra Purī, serving the Lord without personal considerations. परम विरक्त मौनी सर्वत्र उदासीन ग्राम्य वार्ता भये द्वितीय संगहीन. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued, Sri Madhavendra Puri used to remain alone. He was completely renounced and always very silent. He was uninterested in everything material, and for fear of talking about mundane things, he always lived without a companion. See? For fear of talking about mundane things, how much fear he had. Talking about mundane things, he always lived without a companion. Hena jana gopalera agyamrita paya sahasra krosha asibule chandana magiya. After receiving the transcendental orders of Gopal, this great personality traveled thousands of miles just to collect sandalwood by begging. So, see, for the Lord, he did so much by begging. He went thousands of miles just to collect sandalwood for the Lord. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is glorifying his Madhavendra Puri's devotional service. Madhavendra Puri, Ishwar Puri, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So, he's a grand spiritual master of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. भूखे रहे तबो अन्न मागिया ना खाए हे न जन चंदन भारवाही लाया जाए. Although Madhavendra Puri was hungry, he would not beg food to eat. This renounced person carried a load of sandalwood for the sake of Sri Gopal. Manik chandan tola visheka karpura Gopale padaibo e ananda prachura. Without considering his personal comforts, Madhavendra Puri carried one mound, about 82 pounds, of sandalwood and 20 tolas, about 8 ounces, of camphor to smear over the body of Gopal. This transcendental pleasure was sufficient for him. Utkalera dani rakhe chandana dekhiya, taha edailo raja patra dekhaya. Utkalera of Orissa. Dani, toll officer. Since there were restrictions against taking the sandalwood out of the Orissa province, the toll officials confiscated the stock, but Madhavendra Puri showed him the release papers given by the government and consequently escaped difficulties. So this is kind of, mundane, right? Oh, some documentations of, customs documentation. But, in the service of the Lord, it looks like a mundane thing. Oh, sannyasi, why should he worry about, customs documentation or something like that? But in the service of the Lord, we should do anything and everything that is required. Even if it is externally looks like a mundane thing, but it's an important thing in the service of the Lord. To enable the service, we should do anything. So all this documentation, that's why there is one verse. Vaidiki Laukiki. What is that? Madhya 16.241. लौकिकी वैदिकी वापि या क्रिया क्रियते मुने हरिसेवानुकूलैव सा कार्या भक्तिमिच्छता. A devotee may act as an ordinary human being or as a strict follower of Vedic injunctions. In either case, everything he does is favorable for the advancement of devotional service because he is in Krishna consciousness. See, this is another translation of it. One should perform only those activities, either worldly or prescribed by Vedic rules and regulations, which are favorable for the cultivation of Krishna consciousness. So this is a worldly activity like, customs documentation and, transport, whatever, all these things. Dealing with the worldly things which other karmis would deal with. And a spiritualist is usually expected not to deal with such affairs, but, in meditation or something more metaphysical and, something more, something higher than these kind of stuff. But no, that's not bhakti. Bhakti means whatever requires to be done in the service of the Lord requires to be done, and that should be done. So one should perform those activities, worldly or prescribed rules and regulations of the Vedas, which are favorable for the cultivation of Krishna consciousness. Now, even in the printing of books, for example, the paper selection, Prabhupada paid attention to every one of the aspects of the whole business of book distribution. The paper selection, the writing, the proofreading, the editing, negotiating with the printers, getting good credit deals from them, and after that, printing the books and issuing a marketing plan to his disciples, how to market these books big time. All sorts of things he did. And his disciples, empowered by him, they did a lot of things. So, which I can go into so much detail, which I want to do a particular seminar on the history of book distribution. I think we should all be acclimatized with that mood of how Prabhupada actually wanted this done, how much fervor he wanted from us about books distribution. So we will do a separate session on that very soon. But yeah, so anything that needs to be done has to be done for Krishna's service. Okay, so going back. म्लेच्छ देश दूर पथ जगाति अपार म्लेच्छ देश दूर पथ जगाति अपार केमते चंदन निब नाहि ए विचार. Madhavendra Puri was not at all anxious during the long journey to Vrindavan through the provinces governed by the Muslims and filled with unlimited numbers of watchmen. And whenever you carry something valuable, people take interest in you because they take interest in that thing which they want to take away from you. And they may actually harm you. So there is this verse. Hmm. 11:9:2. You see? Samisham kuraram jagnur balinonye niramishaha tadamisham parityajya sasukham samavindata. Once a group of large hawks who were unable to find any prey attacked another weaker hawk who was holding some meat. At that time, being in danger of his life, the hawk gave up his meat and experienced actual happiness. So here, the same example is given. Just like the Mādhavendra Purī, if he was carrying camphor and sandalwood, which were very valuable, he would be watched by many people and his life could be in danger. But if he gave up that sandalwood and karpur, then nobody would bother him. Here, the similar example is there. The hawk, some weaker hawk had some meat with him, and the large hawks, they couldn't find any other food, so they were coming to the weak hawk, closing in on the weak hawk to fight and take the food from that hawk. So at that time, the weaker hawk could have fought and got some of the food, but he could have even died. So because the other hawks considered that food to be valuable, so his life would have been in danger. But when he gave up that thing, he was released from all suffering. He experienced actual happiness because he rejected that food. Then he was, peaceful. Now that is good for sense gratification. In the sense, when one is interested in sense gratification, and by force of circumstances or whatever, if one comes out of it, that is good. But in the case of Krishna's service, though, even if it is with all risk to one's life, a preacher, he preaches. There is this verse, right, about that. This. No. Oh yeah, this is said by Lord Shiva. Yes. Tapyante 8744 Srimad Bhagavatam. Tapyante lokatapena sadhavah prayasho janah paramaradhanam tadhi purushasya khilatmanah. It is said that great personalities almost always accept voluntary suffering because of the suffering of people in general. This is considered the highest method of worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead who is present in everyone's heart. Lord Shiva said this. The highest method of worshipping is to take voluntary suffering for because of the suffering of people in general. So, suffering of people in general is because of the materialistic life, and the acceptance of voluntary suffering is titikshavaha karunika. When we are being karunika or merciful to the fallen souls, then we have to be tolerant because they will not understand it, and there will be a lot of struggle in the course of doing that. So, but a devotee should be, you see, devotee should be willing to undergo all of that. That's why Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, those who have dedicated their life for the service of the Lord have their lives set with thorns. Thorns. You're going to walk a path, not of a red carpet. Yeah, it's a red carpet of another way, another type. Because there are thorns there, and if you walk, they will be bleeding, and the red carpet is made of your own blood. That's the path we walk in the service of the Lord. He said that. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he said a devotee's path is set with thorns. And that's not to kind of say that don't become a devotee. No. Look at Prahlad Maharaj, Haridas Thakur, Prabhupada. Any preacher will have to undergo that. You see, purport 8744 purport. Here is an explanation of how those engaged in activities for the welfare of others are very quickly recognized by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Lord says in Bhagavad Gita 18:68 and 69, Ya idam paramam guhyam madbhakteshu abhidhasyati nasatasman manusheshu kasyam priyakrittamaha. These verses. One who preaches the message of Bhagavad Gita to my devotees is most dear to me. No one can excel him in satisfying me by worship. There are different kinds of welfare activities in this material world, but the supreme welfare activity is the spreading of Krishna consciousness. Other welfare activities cannot be effective, for the laws of nature and the results of karma cannot be checked. It is by destiny or the laws of karma that one must suffer or enjoy. For instance, if one is given a court order, he must accept it, whether it brings suffering or profit. Similarly, everyone is under obligations to karma and its reactions. No one can change this. Anyway, my point is that, yeah. And then this, is already mentioned in the comments there, 3:16:37, yes. So there's a lot of risk. A devotee can even be killed. They risk their lives. So, going back, so we'll see that as well, 3:16:37. When something is arranged by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one should not be disturbed by it, even if it appears to be a reverse according to one's calculations. For example, sometimes we see that a powerful preacher is killed, or sometimes he is put into difficulty, just as Haridas Thakur was. He was a great devotee who came into this material world to execute the will of the Lord by preaching the Lord's glories. But Haridas was punished at the hands of the Qazi by being beaten in 22 marketplaces. Similarly, Lord Jesus Christ was crucified and Prahlad Maharaj was put through so many tribulations. The Pandavas, who were direct friends of Krishna, lost their kingdom. Their wife was insulted and they had to undergo many severe tribulations. Seeing all these reverses affect devotees, one should not be disturbed. One should simply understand that in these matters, there must be some plan of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Bhagavatam's conclusion is that a devotee is never disturbed by such reverses. He accepts even reverse conditions as the grace of the Lord. One who continues to serve the Lord, even in reverse conditions, is assured that he will go back to Godhead, back to the Vaikuntha planets. Lord Brahma assured the demigods that there was no use in talking about how the disturbing situation of darkness was taking place. This is more context of what is going on there. But you get the idea, you see. So So going back. संगे एक वट नाहि घाटी दान दीते, तथापि उत्साह बड़ चंदन लैया जायते. Although Madhavendra Puri did not have a farthing with him, he was not afraid to pass by the toll officers. His only enjoyment was in carrying the load of sandalwood to Vrindavan for Gopal. प्रगाढ़ प्रेमेर ए स्वभाव आचार, निज दुख विघ्नादिर ना करे विचार. This is the natural result of intense love of Godhead. The devotee does not consider personal inconveniences or impediments. In all circumstances, he wants to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. See, this is actual love. So, love means I want to do anything for the Lord. This is love of Godhead. And it does not come with payment. So, usually in material world, people risk their lives to earn for their family. But if that money is not there, they wouldn't risk their life. Some people risk their lives out of their own hobbies. Stupid people. People sometimes do this base jumping. I don't know if you know base jumping. You have these suit and you go on top of the mountain and just jump with a parachute, but just jump. And the suit is like, it spreads its thing. So you kind of glide in the air for very long, for at least 3 to 5 minutes, and then go to the bottom. And you can actually you feel like a bird, whatever. So you're not exactly flying, but it's falling, but it's gliding. So they enjoy falling down. And sometimes there are just horrible accidents, horrific accidents. They risk their lives for just that thrill they live for. Many motorcycle accidents happen like that, car accidents, just for the thrill of speed. And that's why there are signs in India, speeding thrills but kills, stuff like that. So people do such things, but a devotee takes risk and he embraces adventure in the service of the Lord. So the devotee does not consider personal inconveniences or impediments. In all circumstances, he wants to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he's not paid for it, but he wants to do it because he loves the Lord. Purport: it is natural for those who have developed intense love for Krishna not to care for personal inconvenience and impediments. Such devotees are simply determined to execute the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead or his representative, the spiritual master. In all circumstances, even amidst the greatest dangers, they undeviatingly carry on with the greatest determination. This definitely proves the intense love of the servitor. See? In all circumstances, such devotees are simply determined to execute the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead or his representative, the spiritual master. In all circumstances, even amidst the greatest dangers, they undeviatingly carry on with the greatest determination. This definitely proves the intense love of the servitor. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam 10.14.8, Tattenukampam susamekshamanaha. Those who seriously desire to get free from the clutches of material existence, who have developed intense love for Krishna, are worthy candidates for going back home, back to Godhead. An intense lover of Krishna does not care for any number of material discomforts, scarcity, impediments, or unhappiness. It is said that when one sees apparent unhappiness or distress in a perfect Vaishnava, it is not at all unhappiness for him. Rather, it is transcendental bliss. In the Shikshashtaka 8, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is also instructed, Aslishava padaratam pinashtumam, CC Antya 20.47. The intense lover of Krishna is never deviated from his service, despite all difficulties and impediments brought before him. Sometimes devotees say, oh, I have so much inconvenience, I have so many problems, I have this and that. That means he has no interest in Krishna. Of course you're going to have inconvenience. I mean, you think you can have like a nice soft bed here in the ashram? You can't. You don't. You have to sleep on the floor. And this is nothing. I mean, look at the inconvenience Prabhupada went through at the age of 70. Did Prabhupada complain, oh, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, you asked me to preach in the Western countries. I'm trying to do it and I got two heart attacks. What is this? Why are you asking me to do such a heavy lifting job? And, this is very difficult and nobody is there to take care of me. And I'm 70 years old in America. Nobody is there. And, you're asking me to go there. And what is this? You came in my dream and pulled me by the ear and take sannyas. Now you see, this is what is happening. You have put me into a lot of trouble. This is not fair. I'm trying to serve you, but what have you done to me? This is not the griping of a devotee. This is not the consciousness of a devotee. This is rubbish. That means I have no interest in Krishna at all. Krishna should take care of my convenience. Is that what I'm signing up for? We have to take all kinds of inconvenience for Krishna. Not that Krishna has to make it all convenient for us. Where is love? Where is sacrifice? Where is adventure there? Krishna wants to see our devotion, and we should be more than willing to take all sorts of trouble for the service of Krishna. And that is actually, a real devotee would want to go through a lot of challenge in the service of Krishna. However difficult it is, I want to show up. I want to undeviatingly serve the order of my spiritual master. That is a proper devotee. That is a proper devotee. এই তার গাঢ় প্রেমা লোকে দেখাইতে গোপাল তারে আজ্ঞা দিল চন্দন আনিতে. Sri Gopal wanted to show how intensely Mādhavendra Purī loved Krishna. Therefore, he asked him to go to Nilachal to fetch sandalwood and camphor. See, when the Lord gives some difficult task to us, or when we get a difficult task, a difficult service, we can gripe about it and say, oh, what is this? That devotee did not get such a difficult service. I was asked to do such a difficult service. I don't like to do this and all. Imagine if I actually do it. What we should know is that when we are given a difficult service, then we should really depend on the spiritual master and Krishna and actually try executing it. Not thinking that I am qualified to do this. I am so qualified that I was given this difficult service. No, none of that will work. If I just take humbly, I am not qualified for this, but I am given this task. Let me attempt to execute this order. We just have to do like that. And then Krishna will take care of our well-being and our fame also in the future. I mean, what would the greatness of Pandavas, how would we know the greatness of Pandavas if they did not go through all the hardships and tribulations that they went through? How would we know? So Krishna wanted us to know the greatness of the Pandavas, and therefore he asked them to. So today we are glorifying the Pandavas for what they went through and still being unflinching in their devotion to Krishna. When it is happening, the Pandavas couldn't see what the reason was. Oh, something, I don't know what we did that we deserve this. Even Bhishma said, aho kashtam, aho anyayam. It looks like anyaya. It is complete injustice. But how can the Lord do injustice to his devotees? Never does it. But then why does it look like injustice? We do not know what actually the Lord has in plan and in store for us. So without knowing past, present and future, we come to conclusions based on our sense gratification. But if we just stick to the order and carry out, however difficult it is, whatever it is, if you stick to the order and do it, then depending on Krishna and praying to him for strength, like how Prabhupada prayed the other day, I showed how Prabhupada prayed to Krishna in the matter of executing his Guru's order when he reached the shore of America. Markine Bhagavad Dharma. Markin means America. So we can see that mood and we should adopt that. But Krishna has a plan. So we should just trust Krishna's plan, whatever it is. And whatever hardships come our way in the matter of executing that service to Krishna, we should gladly accept it. Gladly accept it. बहु परिश्रमे चंदन रेमुना आनिला आनंद बाढ़िलो मने दुख ना गणिलो. He did not count the difficulties. See, with great trouble and after much labor, Mādhavendra Purī brought the load of sandalwood to Remuna. However, he was still very pleased, he discounted all the difficulties. Pariksha korite Gopala koilo agnadan, pariksha koriya sheshe hoilo dayavan. To test the intense love of Mādhavendra Purī, Gopal, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, ordered him to bring sandalwood from Nilachal. And when Mādhavendra Purī passed this examination, the Lord became very merciful to him. Ei bhakti bhakta priya Krishna vyavahar, bujhiteo ama sabar nahi adhikar. Such behavior exhibited in loving service between the devotee and the devotee's lovable object, Sri Krishna, is transcendental. It is not possible for a common man to understand. Common men do not even have the capacity. Eta bole pade Prabhu Tarakrita Shloka, Jai Shloka Chandra Jagat Karyache Aloka. After saying this, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu read the famous verse of Mādhavendra Purī. That verse is just like the moon. It has spread illumination all over the world. Now he's coming to, after he described the Candana-yātrā and all that, service of Mādhavendra Purī, glories of Mādhavendra Purī, he now remembered the famous verse of Mādhavendra Purī, which we will come to. But you see the segue from that topic to this topic. How did he transition there? You will find it in the coming verses. How did he think about Mādhavendra Puri's Chandan arrangement for the Lord to this verse, which is not related, but he related it in a very beautiful way, which we will see in the coming verses. This verse. Ghashite ghashite joiche malayo jasar, gandha bade toiche ei shlokera vichar. You see, this is how he connected. Because he's talking about Chandan and how Mādhavendra Purī did that. He compared the Chandan, Chandan, when you rub against the stone, and then when the paste comes with the water and the stone, and then the smell of the Chandan becomes more and more experienced by people, right? So ghashite means that, rubbing and rubbing. Ghashite ghashite jaiche malaya jasar, gandha bade toiche e shlokera vichar. So Malayaja means here sandalwood. So ghashite ghashite jaiche malayaja sar, gandha bade taiche e shloker vichar. So you see how he said. Continuous rubbing increases the aroma of Malaya sandalwood. Similarly, consideration of this verse increases one's understanding of its importance. So he connected the Chandan to this verse, which he's going to reveal in the 197th verse. Now it is 192 there, but 197 he reveals the verse. But you see, he's saying he connected with the Chandan. But that's such a beautiful metaphor of rubbing the Chandan and how it is coming. So the verse he compared to the Chandan, which when considered again and again, that is considered, the rubbing is compared to the consideration and vichar and the contemplation on that verse, repeated contemplation of the verse, he compared it to the ghashita, rubbing of the sandalwood on the stone with the water. So sandalwood is already fragrant, but when it is rubbed like that, the fragrance is experienced even more. More and more it becomes fragrant. So this is how we should relish the scriptural verses and the teachings of Prabhupada and everything. We should repeatedly contemplate on these things, and that's why the teachings are versified by the Acharya, by the Vedavyas. So they are in nice chanda, nice tune you can sing, and you can remember like that. So that's very important. So this vichar is very important, as it is explained here. Srimad-bhagavatam Puranam-amalam yad-vaishnavānaṁ priyam yasmin paramahamsyam-ekam-amalam jnanam param gīyate Tatra jnana viraga bhakti sahitam naishkarmyam avishkritam tachrinvan supathan vicharana paro bhaktya vimuchyen nara. Srimad Bhagavatam is the spotless Purana. It is most dear to the Vaishnavas because it describes the pure and supreme knowledge of the Paramahamsas. This Bhagavatam reveals the means for becoming free from all material work, together with the processes of transcendental knowledge, renunciation, and devotion. Anyone who seriously tries to understand Srimad Bhagavatam, who properly hears and chants it with devotion, becomes completely liberated. So the last line especially, you see, as anyone who seriously tries to understand Srimad Bhagavatam. What is that seriously understanding Bhagavatam? Who properly hears and chants it with Tat Shrinvan. Shrinvan means to hear. Supathan, deep study and repetition. And Vicharana, contemplation on the subject. So this is the Ghashite Ghashite. Jaiche Malaya Jasar Gandha Bade Taiche Eish Lokera Vichar. So we should Ghashite, we should rub, and that means we should contemplate on it, act on it, discuss it, spread it, repeat it, hear it with attention. All these things we have to do. And then the whole scripture smells very, very nice. The feeling is just out of this world. And that's why it is said here. Krishna Tulya Bhagavat Vibhu Sarvashroy Pratishloke Pratyakshare Nana Artha Koy. This is Ghashite. Pratishloke Prati Akshare Nana Artha Koy. This Nana Artha is the result of Ghashite or rubbing or contemplation. Repeated contemplation. Srimad Bhagavatam is as great as Krishna, the Supreme Lord and shelter of everything. In each and every verse of Srimad Bhagavatam and in each and every syllable, there are various meanings. And the perfect example is the Atmarama verse, which is explained 1:7:10, 1 Canto 7, chapter 10th verse, which is the famous as the Atmarama verse, was explained by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, which he again repeated to Sanatana Goswami, and that is explained in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. One verse, one small verse, he explained in 64 different ways, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So this is Ghashite Ghashite. So to understand this deeply, one should pay attention when one is reading, and when one should observe. So Prabhupada gave, I was just talking to another devotee, I think, a couple of days back, maybe even in the Bhagavatam class I mentioned this, that we should pay attention to all the words that are being used, Bengali or Sanskrit, even in the Vaishnava songs, because like the 1:7:10 Bhagavatam verse, Atmarama verse, there is one translation given by Srila Prabhupada as the translation of that verse. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave 64 different translations of the verse. And if you see Prabhupada's lectures on certain verses, he expands upon, he will say in this verse, this word is very important. And then he explains that verse in detail. So that explanation may not be found in the book when in the translation of the purport, he may not have touched upon it. Sometimes he would have touched upon it, but from a different angle, and in the lecture, it's a different angle. So there's a lot of things we can learn from understanding the word-to-word meaning. That's why the translation, the purport, is definitely Prabhupada's guidance on, Prabhupada's instructions on understanding that verse. But then, Prabhupada himself said that we should discuss each shloka in our Bhagavatam classes, in our Bhagavad Gita classes. Why did he set up that system? Think about it. Now, Prabhupada gave already the translation and purport to that verse. What more can I say in a class that Prabhupada did not say? And would that be audacity on our part to explain something more than Prabhupada already said in the translation and purport of that verse? Well, it's not. It's not. In fact, if anything, that is the proper rumination on the subject matter presented by Prabhupada. And that's why what I was saying to the devotees as well the other day, I think yesterday or the day before, that in Prabhupada's contribution to us, the most underrated of all Prabhupada's contributions is the word to word meaning. The most underrated. In fact, there's one version of the so called original Bhagavad Gita, 1972 version of Bhagavad Gita, which they made a pocket version of. And in that, you know what is there? The verse, and that too not in the Sanskrit Devanagari Lipi, Devanagari script, just the Romanized diacritics format in the English. So that verse, translation and purport, and they call it the original version, 1970 version. What is original when you completely took out the whole word to word meaning? Is that not editing? They think that is not editing because we are presenting the same translation and purport of Prabhupada, so nothing is taken out. You know, that means they never understood the value of the word to word meaning. Whoever did that, I know who did that, but they did not understand the value of the word to word meanings, because Prabhupada explained the translation and purport, but when he also gave the word to word meaning, those synonyms in English open up a whole new range of meanings to that verse, because you can go on one word of that verse and then unpack it, peel it, and connect it to other instances of that word in other parts of the scripture, wherever other scriptures, and then tie together all those meanings and explain, quote different verses that are related to this subject, and then word by word, pratyakshare pratishloke nanarthakoy. So the very fact that Prabhupada gave us the format of conducting a lecture, which is take a verse and then unpack it. Of course, Chaitanya Charitamrita we read on and then explain, because some of them are very short. But for most of the cases, the verses, we unpack it a lot. So that does not mean Prabhupada did not give everything, but it is connecting all the things that Prabhupada said in many different things and studying the verse from many different angles, ruminating on it, vicharana. We have to do that. That is ghashite jaiche malaya jasar. Gandha badi. Now what is it? Gandha badi? Taiche ei shlokera vichar. Gandha bade. Gandha bade means it increases the gandha, sugandha, the fragrance. Similarly, the verse can be more and more relished if it is discussed in all these different angles. There is this verse 4:28, 41, I think. Yes. Sakshat Bhagavatoktena Guruna Harina Nripa Vishuddha Jnana Deepena Spurata Vishwato Mukham. In this way, King Malayadhwaja attained perfect knowledge, because in his pure state he was directly instructed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By means of such enlightening transcendental knowledge, he could understand everything from all angles of vision. This all angles of vision is important. And this is also what it is. Anumana, yes. Logical reflection. Yeah. See 11:13:33. एवं विमृश्य गुणतो मनसस्त्र्यवस्था मन्मायया मयि कृता इति निश्चितार्थाः संच्छिद्य हार्दमनुमानसदुक्ति तीक्ष्ण ज्ञानासिना भजतमाखिल संशयाधिम्. You should consider how, by the influence of my illusory energy, these three states of mind caused by the modes of nature have been artificially imagined to exist in me. Okay. Having definitely ascertained the truth of the soul, you should utilize the sharpened sword of knowledge acquired by logical reflection and from the instructions of sages and Vedic literatures to completely cut off the false ego, which is the breeding ground of all doubts. All of you should then worship me, who am situated within the heart. This is so important. Anumana from Rishi and the Shastra, Sadukti. Satukti by the instructions of sages and the Vedic literature. Sat means also devotees, and Sat means also Vedic literature. So Anumana by logic and the logic is also based on the scriptures only. The scriptures will tell us what logic to use in understanding this material world, not independently we use our own logic. Like for example, the scriptures, like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught us Trinadapi Sunichena Tarorapi Sahishna. And when we logically reflect on that, how we have to be humble like the blade of grass. Okay, look at the grass, how it is humble. People are trampling on it and it is just bending down and then getting up again. And look at how tolerant the tree is. Logically reflect upon it, upon the analogy given, the metaphor given. Be as tolerant as the tree. Just study now the tolerance of the tree. Then instead of just saying just like like a water tap coming out, so all the sounds are coming out from the mouth, actually reflect on it. Tolerance of the tree. Okay, let me actually study. Let me make a full study of the tolerance of a tree. Let me study what does the tree tolerate. Why is that example used by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? What kind of tolerance does the tree do? Summer, winter, rain. It stands there. It goes through every one of these seasons, standing there naked. It's very hard to do, very difficult to do. And then sometimes woodpecker, they peck on the tree, tolerates so many holes until it actually dies. Sometimes some trees, because of so many holes all over the body, it dies. And while doing that, it gives fruits, it gives flowers, it gives shade, it gives oxygen to us. It's serving us despite being inconvenienced. And if you take a branch and make that into a wooden handle and put an axe on it and then kill the tree with the axe that you created with the wood of the same tree, it still does not protest. So, and still at the same time, it is giving all these gifts to others. It is providing shelter for the birds, for the nests. Sometimes even leopards, they take their prey, they kill an animal and then take the prey up the tree and then store the animal there and eat slowly. So it provides so many things, so many ways it is serving others, and it is taking so much inconvenience while doing so. So if you really study how difficult it is to live as a tree, then we will start to realize what it takes to be a devotee, what it takes to be tolerant, what it takes to be humble. Study the humility of the grass, study the tolerance of the tree. This is called vicharana, deep vicharana, deep logical reflection. Then we have to apply it in our life. We will think about these things deeply, and when we conduct ourselves, we should think on these terms. And what happens with that? You see, having definitely ascertained the truth of the soul, you should utilize the sharpened sword of knowledge acquired by logical reflection and from the instructions of sages and Vedic literatures to completely cut off the false ego, which is the breeding ground of all doubts. Why do we have doubts? Because we have false ego. We have false ego, and we have to cut that out. And for that reason, that very reason, we have to study everything. In fact, even Damodarashtakam, it is said that he has the lips of like the bimba fruit. Instead of just saying bimba fruit, see what is bimba fruit first of all. How does bimba fruit even look like? How many of us actually know what the bimba fruit is? We should be inquisitive. Did I fully understand what is being said here? Or am I just singing for a magical sound only and nothing else? So we should. This is called ghashite ghashite. Then what happens? Gandha bade. There is fragrance. The beauty of those verses will show themselves if we do ghashite ghashite, if we do rubbing, if we do contemplation on them. Such a beautiful example how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu linked the sandalwood to the shloka he was going to reveal. And this can be applied to any shloka. Of course, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is relishing that shloka which is going to be revealed. But any shloka for on our level, this is a very high level shloka actually is going to reveal. Radharani's love for Krishna, this is what he's revealing. But in our case also, we can relish everything, every shloka, everything that is said, we can relish. If we deeply contemplate, we can our relish increases. Oh. Where were we? Let me 192. Okay, we were at 192. Gandhabade. Continuous rubbing increases the aroma of Malaya sandalwood. Similarly, consideration of this verse increases one's understanding of its importance. Beautiful. रत्नगण मध्ये जय छे कौस्तुभ मणि रस काव्य मध्ये तय छे ए श्लोक गणी. As the Kaustubha Mani, Kaustubha jewel, is considered the most precious of valuable stones, this verse is similarly considered the best of poems dealing with the mellows of devotional service. এই শ্লোক কহিয়াছেন রাধা ঠাকুরানী তার কৃপায় স্ফুরিয়াছে Mādhavendra Vāni. Actually, this verse was spoken by Srimati Radharani herself, and by her mercy only was it manifest in the words of Mādhavendra Purī. So this is another important thing to understand. So when the devotees, when the acharyas, they reveal such verses, when they reveal truths like that, it is actually they receiving it from Radha or Krishna. They are just like Baladev Vidyabhushan. He wrote the commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. He called it Govinda Bhashya. And Prabhupada dedicated his Bhagavad Gita commentary to Baladev Vidyabhushan for his excellent presentation of the Govinda Bhashya commentary on the Vedanta Sutra, thus legitimizing the Gaudiya Vaishnava Parampara. So, that means, what is this Govinda Bhashya? Govinda, the Radha Govinda deity in Jaipur now, those deities, the Govinda Dev, he was dictating and Baladev Vidyabhushan was writing the commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. Now, Baladev Vidyabhushan got the credit for writing the commentary, and he legitimized our Sampradaya, Brahma Sampradaya, Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. Because at that time, every Sampradaya had a commentary on Vedanta Sutra, and our Sampradaya did not have, because we considered Vyasadev's Bhagavatam as the natural commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. So there's no need of another commentary, is the version that our acharyas stood by. But since they were asked, okay, he presented he wanted to write. But then he prayed to Govinda Dev, who is Rupa Goswami's deity, now in Jaipur. So Govinda Dev dictated the whole thing and he wrote. Prabhupada also said, this is Krishna's words, I am writing Krishna's words. Krishna is dictating, I am writing. And this is not some exaggeration, it's actually. So here also, you see, although he came up with this beautiful verse, it's actually spoken by Radharani herself, and by her mercy only was it manifest in the words of Mādhavendra Purī. If you see Rupa Goswami's book, Vidagdha Madhava or Lalita Madhava, or Raghunath Das Goswami's book on Krishna's pastimes, which I don't know the name of, and Brihad Bhagavatamrita, Jaiva Dharma, these books look like fiction. Oh, some made up story by the Acharya. But actually, no. Other acharyas comment on Sanatana Goswami's Brihad Bhagavatamrita stating that this is not some fiction, spiritual fiction, but it is actually an event which took place in some other kalpa, Brahma's day, which is completely forgotten, but which was revealed to Sanatana Goswami by the Lord through his inspiration, however he revealed to him, and that is what he wrote as Brihad Bhagavatamrita. Now, anybody can lay this claim to their writing. They write some fiction and say, well, the Lord told me, and then I'm writing. This does not apply to everyone. This only applies to established acharyas. And Sanatana Goswami's position is unquestioned, beyond doubt. And he is writing this. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur's position is beyond doubt. Now it is beyond doubt. Maybe at that time, in their time, maybe they doubted, people doubted their position. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally instructed Sanatana Goswami and Rupa Goswami. They're not ordinary souls. So when they write, they won't write some fairy tales or fictions, some Harry Potter stuff, some what is that? Fiction, spiritual fiction. No. These are real things which have no mention in any of the Vedic literatures, but it is understood by acharyas as some from previous kalpa or something, some memory, which the Lord is always aware of everything that happened. Even in our Bhagavatam, for example, all the histories that are mentioned in the Bhagavatam there is from this day of Brahma. Only one or two instances when a previous day of Brahma was referred to, like Narada Muni's case in his life, in a previous life. So there was a reference to a previous day of Brahma, but not much. All the history is from this day of Brahma. Look at, just imagine how much history there is just of this universe. 50 years of Brahma have passed, 360 days each year, and every day you can write a Bhagavatam. And this is just a very minuscule portion of the entire history of even this day of Brahma. There are so many things which may not be even completely told to us. Just imagine, I mean, there's unlimited knowledge, and the acharyas are always directed by Krishna. So here also Radharani's verse, by her mercy was it manifest in the words of Mādhavendra Purī. And why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is glorifying him? Because Mādhavendra Purī, this verse is the beginning of Madhurya Ras in our parampara. Before that, it was not Madhurya Ras. I think it was what? Dāsa Ras, maybe something like this. Madhva Sampradaya, everything. But he started this Madhurya Ras in Mādhavendra Purī. Just like Krishna, when he comes, he would send his great-grandfather, his grandfather, his father, and everybody first, and then he comes. Not only great-grandfather, father, everybody, the demons, the devotees, the friends, the relatives, the enemies, everybody is sent to this earth, and then he comes here to do the Leela. Similarly, Mādhavendra Purī just did not happen to be the grand spiritual master of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but he was planted there by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Before Krishna came down as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he sent Mādhavendra Purī to start the ball rolling, and then he fully relished that the contributions of Mādhavendra Purī. So in this way we should understand. Kiba Gaura Chandra iha kore aswadana, iha aswadite ar nahi chautha jana. Only Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has tasted the poetry of this verse. No fourth man is capable of understanding it. Radharani, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Mādhavendra Purī. Only these three can understand. No fourth man is capable of understanding it. Purport. This indicates that only Srimati Radharani, Mādhavendra Purī and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are capable of understanding the purport of this verse. Sheshakale ei shloka pathite pathite siddhi prapti hoilo purir shlokera sahite. Mādhavendra Purī recited this verse again and again at the end of his material existence. Thus, uttering this verse, he attained the ultimate goal of life. Then now the verse comes. Ai dīna dayārdra nath hai mathura nath kadāvalokya se hridayam tvadaloka kātaram dayita bhramyati kim karomyaham. O my Lord, O most merciful Master, O Master of Mathura, when shall I see you again? Because of my not seeing you, my agitated heart has become unsteady. O most beloved, what shall I do now? This is uttered in such great anxiety for the Lord that is actually transcendental bliss. There is a lot of meaning in this one verse. A lot of meaning. But this is the verse. Now it doesn't look as well. Most merciful Master, Master Mathura, when shall I see you again? Okay, because of my not seeing you, my agitated heart has become unsteady. Okay, most beloved. Okay, what should I do now? Okay. Like, what is the greatness in this verse? One may think. That is only because we have zero access to this, the rasa that is in this verse. It's only because of our ignorance of the importance of this verse that we do not. Actually, in one class, I think some months ago or a year ago or something, I did explain according to what, as much as I understand, the glory of this verse. Master of Mathura, Mathuranath. Radharani is Vrindavan. So she is now calling him Mathuranath. You are no more in Vrindavan. You have left us. You have forgotten us. Now you are a resident of Mathura and the Lord there. And all the beautiful girls of the city are now your companions. And we don't have a place in your life anymore. And still yet we love you. That is Parakiya Bhava. This is the beauty of this verse. This is from a Parakiya Bhava perspective. The highest and the highest of the highest. In the case of Rukmini Krishna, in the case of Lakshmi Narayana, in the case of Sita Ram, there is a binding contract of marriage, which is like, okay, Ram is mine, Sita can think. Narayan is mine, Lakshmi can think. Krishna is mine, Rukmini can think. He's my husband. But here, the gopis had no contract of marriage. There is no reason that because he's my husband, I'm loving him. No, I love him. I love Krishna. Whether he is with us or he chooses to leave us. Oh merciful Master, Ai Dina Dayardra. So she's calling him merciful. Although he has mercilessly left them, it's all transcendental. When we say mercilessly, it's all transcendental expressions. It's not actually merciless. It's actually more, as I said, Sangama Viraha Vikalpe, the separation and meeting. The separation is more ecstatic than meeting the Lord. So this is actually a greater benediction. The gopis enjoyed Krishna more than the queens at Dwarka or the girls at Mathura. So, O my Lord, O most merciful Master, Master of Mathura, when shall I see you again? There's no confirmation on whether he's coming back, when he's coming back, whether they will see him in his life anymore. But still, yet they love him. And also, she does not want to go there to Mathura to see him, which is not very far from Vrindavan, right? If Mādhavendra Purī could come from Govardhan all the way to Remuna in Orissa, why Radharani or somebody could not go to the next town, which is Mathura? First of all, they had family. She was bound to home. But also, even if she could travel, she did not want to travel because she wants Krishna in the Vrindavan mood. There, the mood is in the natural setting. It's just very simple village girls and Krishna. That setting, that village setting with the cows and everything. She did not want to worship him in opulence. In the Mathura, in the city, there is so much opulence. There is so much grandeur. That kind of inhibits the intimacy that is felt by Radharani. So all that is in this verse. All of that is in this verse. When she says Mathuranath, she's alluding to the distance that has now come before them, that now you are a resident of another city and you have completely forgotten us, village girls of Vrindavan, unsophisticated village girls of Vrindavan, now that you are with the city girls of Dwarka and Mathura and later on the queens of Dwarka, who are the best among the women, the royal women. Now you have them and we are of no consequence to you anymore. So looks like feminine rivalry and envy there, but not at all. But it resembles that. So there's so much in this verse. Because of my not seeing you, my agitated heart has become unsteady. You know what this unsteady is? I do not know if this has... No, not this. And okay, let's see this also. So Radharani, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying like Radharani, Nagani apana dukha sabe vanchi tara sukha amar tat parija more jadi diya dukha tara hoilo maha sukha she dukha mora sukha variya. I do not mind my personal distress. I only wish for the happiness of Krishna. For his happiness is the goal of my life. However, If he feels great happiness in giving me distress, that distress is the best of my happiness. So that's how Radharani thinks. If he feels great happiness in giving me distress, that distress is the best of my happiness. That is love. And let me okay. This is the nectar of devotion. In the Danakeli Kaumudi, it is stated, when love develops in the heart of a devotee, he cannot check the transformation of his sentiments. His heart is just like the ocean at the rising of the moon, when the ebb tide cannot be checked. Immediately there must be movement of high waves. Although in its natural state, the ocean is always grave and unfathomable. When the moon rises, nothing can check the ocean's agitation. Similarly, those who are pure devotees cannot on any account check the movement of their feelings within. So, yeah, in the comments there is this Anthya 2066. So, this is the verse. So, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's heart was like that, grave. So, when the word unsteady is used, it is not simply some, a cheap flickering heart. No. Okay. यद्यपिह प्रभु कोटि समुद्र गंभीर नाना भाव चंद्रोदय होये न अस्थिर अस्थिर restless, this unsteady, restless, asthira. So although Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is as deep and grave as millions of oceans, Pacific Ocean, I mean, just see how deep and grave it is. Millions of that, millions and millions of that, and that's how grave Mahaprabhu is. So he won't get easily, he's not a flickering person who sometimes feels joy, sometimes feels sad or something like that without any rhyme or reason. Such unsteady minds, an unsteady heart, weak heart. No, he's not Hridaya Daurbalyam. He's not Hridaya Daurbalya of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Although he's as grave as millions of oceans, ocean is so grave, but when the moon rises, when the moon of his various emotions rises, he becomes restless. So here, Radharani is feeling restless, agitated. This restlessness is coming from unimaginable depths of gravity, of thought, of existence. It's not simply a flickering thing, just like a lamp, the flame of the lamp easily gets slightest of wind, it becomes agitated. It's not like that. That is the most fickle thing. But here, grave is the ocean, but when the moon comes, and there are high waves and there's so much activity, so much agitation. So the love for Krishna is so great that even though one maybe was very, very grave, and in the Nectar of Devotion it is mentioned that Danakeli Kaumudi, there is a verse. That would be interesting to know, because that must be a Sanskrit verse probably by, I think it's by Rupa Goswami if I'm not wrong. So that verse also will be very nice to know. So that is how it is. This asthira is that. This agitation, unsteadiness is born from such unimaginable depths of gravity. It's not inconsequential, meaningless phrase that is mentioned there in that verse. Okay. Because of my not seeing you, and this not seeing you can be expanded upon. Just like we said, separation is more than meeting, and all the ecstasy that comes with it, and all the things that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu relishes in the final days of his final pastimes, Leela, Madhya-līlā. That's why you have seen those things. When he spoke the Shikshashtaka, he was in this transcendental madness. And in Madhya-līlā, you will see a lot of it. O most beloved, what shall I do now? And as he was leaving his body during the last days of Mādhavendra Purī, he used to constantly chant this verse. What shall I do now? I am unable to see you. I did not see you. So purport: the uncontaminated devotees who strictly depend on the Vedanta philosophy are divided into 4 sampradayas or transcendental parties. Out of the 4 sampradayas, the Sri Madhvacharya Sampradaya was accepted by Mādhavendra Purī. Thus, he took sannyas according to parampara, the disciplic succession. Beginning from Madhvacharya down to the spiritual master of Mādhavendra Purī, the Acharya named Lakshmipati, there was no realization of devotional service in conjugal love. Sri Mādhavendra Purī introduced the conception of conjugal love for the first time in the Madhvacharya Sampradaya. Some people are questioning whether Mādhavendra Purī is even from Madhvacharya, because in Madhvacharya the acharyas, their title will be Tirtha usually, and here it's Puri, Mādhavendra Purī. Puri is not a traditional title of Madhva Sampradaya. So how is he part of Madhva Sampradaya? Some are questioning the legitimacy, but our acharyas accept that, and the exact details of how it happened, probably there is a historical account of it, but our acharyas accept, so we accept on their word, because they are not wrong, and there might be some historical explanations of how exactly it came to pass. But Prabhupada also is mentioning here, and the version of such exalted devotees is more important than even historical evidence. But if there is historical evidence, that will just support, it will act as a supporting piece of evidence, but just the word of the pure devotee is enough to is enough evidence. But usually people do not accept that because they don't know the value of the word of a pure devotee, and therefore historical reference sometimes helps. But we accept on the word of great acharyas like Prabhupada and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who wrote the Parampara song, and even Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, who mentioned his name. So we accept their version, but if there is historical evidence, that will be easier to convince the others who do not have the same faith. So, Sri Madhavendra Purī introduced the conception of conjugal love for the first time in the Madhvacharya Sampradaya, and this conclusion of the Madhvacharya Sampradaya was revealed by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu when he toured southern India and met the Tattvavadis who supposedly belonged to the Madhvacharya Sampradaya. When Sri Krishna left Vrindavan and accepted the kingdom of Mathura, Srimati Radharani, out of ecstatic feelings of separation, expressed how Krishna can be loved in separation. Thus, devotional service in separation is central to this verse. This Vipralambha Bhava, which wasn't known until then explicitly, that became very prominent, a central theme of this verse, and that is the core teaching of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In the talk between Ramananda Rai and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which is called Ramananda Samvad. So there also the highest perfection of devotional service is understood to be conjugal love, and in conjugal love, parakiya or paramour love, and in paramour love, the service in separation. Raslila is fine, Raslila is good, but after that, when they separated, that's when the height became even more lofty. And Subala Prabhu was once mentioning this point in his lecture, that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, of all places in this world, the most auspicious place is Kurukshetra. Not even Vrindavan, not even Mayapur, but Kurukshetra, he said. And I was also a little bit surprised why. And then he explained the reason, that in Kurukshetra, when gopis met Krishna after 100 years of separation, or almost 100 years of separation, At that time, the feelings with which Radharani saw Krishna and felt that meeting after almost 100 years of separation is just impossible to describe. And Kurukshetra happens to be the place where those feelings were revealed, where those feelings were felt by Radharani, which the intensity of that is nowhere near the intensity she felt in Vrindavan, which was already very high in separation from Krishna. But when after all that separation, when she meets him, the conflicting emotions and just the absolute raging agitation of emotions that Radharani experienced and the gopis experienced in Kurukshetra is not to be even found in Vrindavan, Mathura, or what is that? Navadvip. CC Anthya 1.79. What is that? Let me see. What is that? Anthya. What is Anthya? कुरुक्षेत्र मिलितस्तथाहं सा राधा तदिहम उभयोः संगम सुखम तथापि अंतः खेलन मधुर मुरली पंचम जुषे मनो में खालंदी पुल्न विपनाय. Beautiful. My dear friend, now I have met my very old and dear friend Krishna on this field of Kurukshetra. I am the same Radharani and now we are meeting together. It is very pleasant, but I would still like to go to the bank of the Yamuna beneath the trees of the forest there. I wish to hear the vibration of his sweet flute playing the fifth note within that forest of Vrindavan. Beautiful, very beautiful. This is a glimpse of what she was feeling. There's so much more depth and so much more detail of these feelings. Yeah, so Kurukshetra became home to that. And also the Rath Yatra festival is actually pulling the Lord Jagannath back to Vrindavan because he came in big chariots and everything from Dwarka, and Radharani, they all came as simple village girls. And while she was feeling all the conflicting feelings, she was with her family members who, in front of whom she is supposed to act sane and not moved by Krishna. So it was just a torrent of emotions. And that beautiful thing happened in Kurukshetra. So again, the point there is the Vipralambha is put on a pedestal, is the highest worship of Krishna. 8.194. पहिले ही राग नयन भंगे भेल अनुदिन बाढ़ल अवधि ना गेल ना सो रमण ना हम रमणी दुहु मन मनोभव पेशल जानी ए सखी से सब प्रेम काहिनी कानुठा में कह बिछुरल जानी नाखो जलू दूती नाखो जलू आन दुहु केरी मिलने मध्य पांच बाण अब सोही विराग तुहु भेली दूती सुपुरुख प्रेम की ऐच्छन रीति. This is what language is this? Is Maithili or what is this? These verses were originally composed when sung by Ramanand Rai himself. So anyway, whichever, or maybe Odia or whatever, I don't know. Alas, before we met, there was an initial attachment between us, brought about by an exchange of glances. In this way, attachment evolved. That attachment has gradually grown, and there is no limit to it. Now that attachment has become a natural sequence between ourselves. It is not that it is due to Krishna, the enjoyer, nor is it due to me, the enjoyed. It is not like that. This attachment was made possible by mutual meeting. This mutual exchange of attraction is known as Manobhava or Cupid. Krishna's mind and my mind have merged together. Now, during this time of separation, it is very difficult to explain these loving affairs. My dear friend, though Krishna might have forgotten all these things, you can understand and bring this message to him. But during our first meeting, there was no messenger between us, nor did I request anyone to see him. Indeed, Cupid's 5 arrows were our via media. Now, during this separation, that attraction has increased to another ecstatic state. My dear friend, please act as a messenger on my behalf, because if one is in love with a beautiful person, this is the consequence. Bhaktivinoda Thakur suggests that during the time of conjugal enjoyment, the attachment might be compared to Cupid himself. However, during the period of separation, Cupid becomes a messenger of highly elevated love. This is called Prema Vilasa Vivarta. When there is separation, conjugal enjoyment itself acts like a messenger, and that messenger was addressed by Srimati Radharani as a friend. The essence of this transaction is that transcendental loving affairs are as relishable during separation as during conjugal enjoyment. When Srimati Radharani was fully absorbed in love of Krishna, she mistook a black tamal tree for Krishna and embraced it. Such a mistake is called Prema Vilasa Vivarta. And it is more glorious than not committing the mistake. Mistakes in such ecstatic feelings are more glorious than perfect execution without any mistake. And there was a conversation between the gopis that one of the gopis said, "Oh, you have made this garland, or you made this so perfectly." I don't know what it was. That means you have no love for Krishna. Because if you really love Krishna, then you should make so many mistakes. You did it perfectly. Usually, when we think about serving Krishna, we want to do it the perfect thing for Krishna. And that would be that would be devotion. Yes, that is good for our level. But at the level of the gopis, if they make mistake, that's when you know they're really in love with Krishna, because their mind is just not there. They're just so absorbed and they're making all kinds of mistakes. Like Vidura, he gave the banana peels instead of the banana. And that mistake, that prema vilasa vivarta, that is more glorious than perfect service. This is even more perfect service, although it looks like imperfection. And Krishna accepts. The best part is Krishna accepts, and that is the proof that it is perfect. He accepts it with more relish than the perfect offering, the perfect reverential offering. Thus, devotional service in separation is central to this verse. Worship in separation is considered by the Gaudiya Madhva Sampradaya to be the topmost level of devotional service. According to this conception, the devotee thinks of himself as very poor and neglected by the Lord. Thus, he addresses the Lord as Dina Dayardra Natha, as did Mādhavendra Purī. Such an ecstatic feeling is the highest form of devotional service. Because Krishna had gone to Mathura, Srimati Radharani was very much affected, and she expressed herself thus: "My dear Lord, because of your separation, my mind has become overly agitated. Now tell me, what can I do? I am very poor and you are very merciful, so kindly have compassion upon me and let me know when I shall see you." Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was always expressing the ecstatic emotions of Srimati Radharani that she exhibited when she saw Uddhava at Vrindavan. Similar feelings experienced by Mādhavendra Purī are expressed in this verse. Therefore, Vaishnavas in the Gaudiya Madhva Sampradaya say that the ecstatic feelings experienced by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu during his appearance came from Sri Mādhavendra Purī through Ishwar Puri. All the devotees in the line of the Gaudiya Madhva Sampradaya accept these principles of devotional service. So I think we'll stop there and we will continue 198 next. From 198 onwards, actually, we don't have as many verses left, right? Let me see. $213. Oh, we don't have many verses left. Okay. I think we will just finish the chapter. এই শ্লোক পড়িতে প্রভু হইলা মূর্ছিতে প্রেমেতে প্রেমেতে বিবশ হইয়া পড়িল ভূমিতে. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu recited this verse, he immediately fell to the ground unconscious. He was overwhelmed and had no control over himself. आस्ते व्यस्ते कोले करी नील नित्यानंद क्रंदन करिया तबे उठे गौरचंद्र. When Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu fell to the ground in ecstatic love, Lord Nityananda quickly took him on his lap. Crying, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then got up again. প্রেমোন্মাদ হইল উঠি ইতি উতি ধায় হুঙ্কার করয়ে হাসে কান্দে নাচে গায়. Exhibiting ecstatic emotions, the Lord began to run here and there, making resounding noises. Sometimes he laughed, and sometimes he cried, and sometimes he danced and sang. आई दीन बोले बार बार कंठे नाने सरे वाणी नेत्रे अश्रुधार. Ai Dina, O my Lord, Master of the poor. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu could not recite the whole verse. He simply said Ai Dina repeatedly. Thus he could not speak and profuse tears were in his eyes. कंपस्वेद पुलकाश्रु स्तंभ वैवर्ण्य निर्वेद विषाद जाड्य गर्व हर्ष दैन्य. All the symptoms are mentioned here, you see. Trembling, perspiration, jubilant tears, talk, fading of the bodily luster, disappointment, moroseness, loss of memory, pride, joy, and humility were all visible in Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's body. How can you imagine? I mean, how can pride and humility appear at the same time? How can moroseness and jubilant tears appear at the same time? How can loss of memory and shock and and these can happen. Loss of moroseness and joy can happen at the same time. Like all conflicting emotions all at the same time. Imagine what he must be feeling. You can't even imagine. Purport: in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Jadya is explained as a loss of memory brought about by severe shock due to separation from the beloved. In that state of mind, one loses all concern for loss and gain, hearing and seeing, as well as all other considerations. This marks the preliminary appearance of illusion. But in this transcendental illusion, it takes on a different color. It's totally different. It's like a gold and iron. You can't even compare. But in the material world, it's illusion. In there, it's a transcendental illusion, which is more awareness than awareness. Here, it is a dullness of the awareness. There, the illusion is more awareness of the Lord's intimate qualities and one's feeling of them than objective awareness. This emotional awareness is even higher than objective awareness. এই শ্লোকে উঘাড়িলা প্রেমের কপাট গোপীনাথ সেবক দেখে প্রভুর প্রেম নাট. This verse uncovered the door of ecstatic love, and when it was exhibited, all the servants of Gopinath saw Chaitanya Mahaprabhu dance in ecstasy. লোকের সংঘট্ট দেখি প্রভুর বাহ্য হইল ঠাকুরের ভোগ সরে আরতি বাজিল. When many people crowded around Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he regained his external senses. In the meantime, the offering to the deity had been finished and there was a resounding arati performance. ঠাকুরে শয়ন করাইয়া পূজারি হইল বাহির প্রভুর আগে আনি দিল প্রসাদ বার ক্ষীর. When the deities were laid down to rest, the priest came out of the temple and offered all 12 pots of sweet rice to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. ক্ষীর দেখি মহাপ্রভুর আনন্দ বাড়িল ভক্তগণে খাও যাইতে পঞ্চ ক্ষীর লইল. When all the pots of sweet rice remnants left by Gopinath were placed before Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he became very pleased. In order to feed the devotees, he accepted 5 of them. सात क्षीर पूजारी के बाहुडिया दिल पंच क्षीर पंच जने वाटिया खाइल. बांटिया खाइला. The 7 remaining pots were pushed forward and delivered to the priest. Then the 5 pots of sweet rice the Lord had accepted were distributed among the 5 devotees, and they ate the prasadam. Gopinath rope jodi kare achen bhojan, bhakti dekhaite koilo prasada bhakshan. Being identical with the Gopinath deities, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had already tasted and eaten the pots of sweet rice. Yet, just to manifest devotional service, he again ate the pots of sweet rice as a devotee. He ate the sweet rice as Krishna, and then he ate the sweet rice as devotee. नाम संकीर्तने शये रात्रि गोआयला मंगलारती देखी प्रभाते चलीला. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu passed that night at the temple engaged in congregational chanting. In the morning, after seeing the Mangalarati performance, he departed. Gopal Gopinath Puri Gosai Raguna Bhakta Sange Shri Mukhe Prabhu Koila Asvadana. In this way, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally tasted with his own mouth the transcendental qualities of Gopalji, Gopinath, and Sri Mādhavendra Purī. He tasted with his own mouth how he glorified Madhavendra Puri's devotional service. He glorified Gopal and Gopinath, how they reacted, how they interacted with his devotee. And he tasted the Mahaprasadam Kshir of Kshirchora Gopinath, who stole the Kshir for Madhavendra Puri. So in that way also he tasted the as the Gopinath deity and as the devotee Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So in this way he personally tasted with his own mouth, both by eating and by speaking about the whole pastime and the whole Candana-yātrā, and also connecting that Chandan rubbing to the shloka of, which is the fragrant shloka of our parampara. Look at that. I mean, even the analogy, actually I missed this part of it. That verse is the fragrance of our sampradaya, is the chandan of our sampradaya, because our madhurya ras, that is, we are what we are known for now, that flavor, that smell, that fragrance came from this Madhavendra Puri's chandan like verse, which when ghashite, when rubbed, one can see the fragrance. And now the fragrance has spread all over the world. This Madhurya ras, glory of the Madhurya ras, is now known all over the world thanks to Srila Prabhupada. He spread this fragrance everywhere. So it's beautiful, very beautiful. Eita akhyane kohila dohara mahima prabhur bhakta vatsalya ar bhakta prema sima. Thus I have described both the transcendental glories of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's affection for his devotees and the highest limit of ecstatic love of God. Shraddha Jukta Haya Iha Shune Jai Jan Sri Krishna Charane Shay Paya Prema Dhan. One who hears this narration with faith and devotion attains the treasure of love of Godhead at the lotus feet of Sri Krishna. Shri Rupa Raghunatha Pade Sri Rupa Raghunatha Pade Jarayash Chaitanya Charitamrita Kohe Krishna Das. Last verse. Praying at the lotus feet of Sri Rupa and Sri Raghunath, always desiring their mercy, I, Krishnadas, narrate Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, following in their footsteps. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports to Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya-līlā, 4th chapter, describing Sri Mādhavendra Puri's devotional service. So, any questions or comments? So Barry, he's saying, why are you saying dal is non-vegetarian just because it has protein in it? You want Hindus to be weak? Why do the Vedas say we ate beef? Nobody ate beef in the Vedic thing. Don't talk nonsense. There is Gomedha sacrifice, which is very different from eating beef. Without knowing, don't comment. Don't take knowledge from some random Sanskrit scholar and say that as if he understood everything from the Vedas. It is not understood by Sanskrit scholarship. It is understood by submission to the proper bona fide spiritual master coming in the disciplic succession, and is not understood by Sanskrit scholarship at all. So, we do not eat beef. Vedic culture does not condone beef eating at all. Gomedha sacrifice used to be there, and that's a totally different thing. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also explained that. If you care about knowing that, then you can read that. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's comment on it, which is somewhere in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. I'm not going to spend my time on it. Why is non-vegetarian just because it has protein? You want Hindus to be weak? Well, we're not weak. Too much of protein is in the mode of passion. We need protein, but not too much. We're not here to become tigers and lions. We don't want to become extra so-called strong. Yeah, Kshatriyas have to become strong, yes. And even otherwise, yes, we should have sufficient strength to do our services. But it is not weakness. And we eat dal. We eat dal. And it's only in the Kartik month that we don't eat urad dal. Masoor dal we usually avoid. But urad dal we only don't eat in Kartik month. Otherwise, we do eat. And sparing, we should eat everything in moderation, but not meat. And it's not that we don't eat protein. Too much protein is not good. That is in the mode of passion. Barry is saying I'm vegetarian, but saying dal is non-veg. Those two is crazy. You know, your opinion does not matter. First, know one thing: if something is difficult for you to accept, you should expand your accommodation of your mind to accommodate this idea and understand how it is true. Not that you are no judge to say whether it is true or not. You are no judge to do that. You're always wrong if you don't accept with the Vedic version and with the Acharya's version. And if there is a conflict of your understanding with the statements of the Acharya, then expand your understanding to accommodate the instruction of the Acharya. Not try to judge the Acharya, and because he does not fit to your paradigm, so he is in the wrong and you are always right. Just because you have a certain worldview, receiving education from a certain atheistic education system and modern neo Vedic so-called advocates, get the knowledge from the proper sampradaya, and that is the proper way of understanding it. Don't challenge because that will only deny you the entrance into proper understanding. It will not change the facts. It will not discredit anything. If anything, you will be discredited if you challenge that. So we should always be careful in how we receive this with humility. And if something doesn't fit our understanding, then we have to change our understanding to fit it. Okay. Three 13.4 is translated differently in the purport of Madhya 8.246. Okay, let's go to 3.13.4. Yeah, this is also important verse. श्रुतस्य पुंसां शुचिरश्रमस्य नन्मञ्जसा सूरिभिरीडितोऽर्थः तत्तद्गुणानुश्रवणं मुकुन्द पादारविन्दं हृदयेषु येषाम्. Persons who hear from a spiritual master with great labor and for a long time must hear from the mouths of pure devotees about the character and activities of pure devotees. Pure devotees always think within their hearts of the lotus feet of the personality of Godhead who awards his devotees liberation. Now, if we go to 8.46 purport. Famous. After much hard labor, a person highly learned in Vedic literature certainly becomes very famous. However, one who is always hearing and chanting the glories of the lotus feet of Mukunda within his heart is certainly superior. Oh, I don't know. Oh, it's very different. Anyway, 1418. Madhya 1418. I am the most superior of your servants. Is my mission that you will accept me as a servant of your servants. Okay, what else? Some question here. Again, it's not really related. So, the question is in Mahabharata when Arjuna asked Krishna to recite some of Gita again, he said he can't do it. It was a divine revelation. Doesn't that imply either Krishna wasn't God, all knowing in his human form, or he was just a very well scholared Param Yogi like rishis who used to get divine revelation like in Veda and not God himself? It's stupid nonsense. Krishna, of course, can do it again and again, and did it again and again. He gave to Uddhava again and again. It's rubbish nonsense. Where is the story coming from? Nonsense. Okay. Shrikant Chandramouli, he's saying Prabhu is something, a question is not complete. So maybe we'll wait for the question, quickly type and send. What happens to people who worship Krishna in the mood of a servant? No, they will still become servants of Krishna. The thing is, in Madhurya Ras, it's the, like the five Panchabhutas, Panchamahabhuta, the ether, what is that? Earth, water, fire, air, and ether. So, ether, air, fire, water, earth. So, all the qualities that are there in ether are there in air. So, ether has. So, in the same way, the pancha, the rasas, whatever is there in conjugal is also there in dasya. And whatever there is there in parakya rasa is there in sakhya, is there in dasya. But parakya has parakya has everything, whereas the other ones have partial features. Whereas parakya bhava, this vipralambha, has the highest. Everything that is already there in all the other rasas are already there here. So it is a complete perfection of devotional exhibition of emotions and all. But it's not the, for example, Hanuman is not perfect in his devotion. Although he's in the dāsa, he's completely perfect. He's as perfect as the gopis, but he has his own flavor. Gopis have a different flavor, which has access to many other more feelings than just reverence. There is reverence, there is also equality, there is also possessiveness, there is also all the things that come with conjugal, which includes even offering of one's body and everything, and all the intricate feelings that are there in conjugal love, much more intimate. So that's all is there. But if one is serving Krishna in dasaras, in fact, as in the beginning, now we are all doing in dasaras. That also not perfectly. We're not even there dasaras, but in the Vaidhi stage, we are in dasaras. We are just serving Krishna because we should serve Krishna. We are servants of Krishna. I should serve him. So with that mood, we are going. Yes, the other thing is nobody gets to choose the rasa. Yeah, and our original mood is already there, our original relationship with Krishna, and we will just reinstate our mood with Krishna. while fully being cognizant of, like for example, do you think Hanuman does not know about conjugal love affairs? He does. He understands Sita and Ram love affair like no one else. He understands everything about conjugal affairs. But just that his own preference is dasaras in their service. It's not that he's bereft of the understanding of conjugal love. Otherwise, why did he, after coming from so many things, how he appeared himself before Sita with the ring and everything, and even when he came back from Lanka after finding Sita, he said, found Sita, found Mother Sita. He used the word found first. Usually that's wrong grammar. Sita is found, or I found Sita. So the object must come later and then the activity must come later than that. But here he said found Sita. Grammatically incorrect, but rasa wise correct. Because he knew how Ram would faint if he was saying, if he said Sita is found, I found Sita. When I'm saying Sita, what if he faints out of expectation of what is the news? Because of that intense feeling of separation, he may even faint. So he did not want him to faint. He found Sita. So he gave him the good news before anything happens. He did not want him to be more anxious than he already was. So that understanding, that very intricate understanding he had. Hanuman has everything, all the knowledge of everything else. But he preferred Dasara. So it's not that, and the friends of Krishna, they know everything about conjugal love. In fact, there is a huge collaboration between the cowherd boys and the cowherd girls in arrangement of these loving affairs. How they arrange their meetings with Krishna, and the boys and girls, they have all these secret talks and everything, although none of it has any meaning or any consequence or any importance, but they just have all these things, big plotting going on between collaboration between the boys and the girls. So every one of them are aware of every other rasa, but just that their preference is that, like the flowers and the bees and the birds, they all know the glories of the Lord in everything else. Even Shukadeva Goswami is a parrot in the spiritual world, but he knows the glory of Radharani, which is why he did not utter her name, because he would go into trance if he did so. And he only indirectly mentioned his name. And because he was there as a witness to all the pastimes of Radha and Krishna, and he knew, he very well knew, but he was a parrot. So like that is the thing. It's not that they don't know or they're a lower class devotee, nothing like that. They all are just playing their part in the Leela of the Lord. All right, I will stop it here. श्री चैतन्य चरितामृत की जय, कृष्णदास कविराज गोस्वामी की जय, श्री प्रभुपाद की जय, माधवेंद्र पुरी की जय, निताय गौर प्रेमानंद, हरि हरि बोल, हरे कृष्ण।